Hey everyone, today's video is on lesson 1.3. So start out getting into your note guide. If you don't have your note guide, hit pause, go grab that. And we're going to be looking at order of operations. This is something you've probably done before, maybe just need a little reminder. So this book, Order Operations, they sum up right here. You may remember an acronym called PEMDAS. Okay, I'm doing the best I can write with the mouse here. Hopefully I'll get my writing pad soon, but PEMDAS. So let's go over order operations is, and then do some examples. First of all, the P stands for parentheses, and more specifically, they write here, evaluate expressions inside grouping symbols. So we could see brackets or parentheses, things like that. In the acronym, the E stands for exponents, or more specifically, evaluate powers. So if you see any exponents in the expression, you need to do those powers. Then the M and the D go together. It says multiply and divide from left to right. So M and D have the same priority. It's not multiplication before division. They're the same. And if they're both in a problem, you go left to right. And then the same with addition and subtraction. The A and the S are for addition and subtraction. Again, it's not addition before subtraction. They're on the same level. If you see both in a problem, you add, or you do whatever's first from left to right. Okay, so let's take a look at a couple problems. We got the expression here, 4 times 20 plus 8 times 5 plus 4.8. Okay, so first thing we're going to do, we look through it and see, is there any grouping symbols, parentheses, anything like that? And there's not. Then we look, any powers? There is not. So then we look for any multiplication and division. There's a couple of them. Okay. So they do the first multiplication, 4 times 20 is 80. Okay. Now you could at that point rewrite the whole expression with 80 right here and then plus 8 times 5 plus 4.8. Now what they do is they do two steps at once. Since this multiplication and this multiplication are separated by a plus, they can do both of those at one time. So they did 4 times 20 is 80, but then they had to write the plus down. And then 8 times 5 is 40. And then the other plus and 4.8. So if you're going to be doing the worksheet for extra credit and stuff, this is the type of thing I need to see. I need to see a step in there. Okay, so we can't just be writing down answers for this and expect to get credit. There needs to be at least a step in between here. So now at this point, it's all addition. So they're going to go 80 plus 40 is 120 plus the 4.8 is 124.8. Okay, so let's look at these two smaller examples down here. There's a subtraction and a multiplication, so we got to do the multiplication first. So we have the 25, and we got to leave the minus there. We go 6 times 3 is 18. Now we can do the subtraction. 25 minus 18 is 7. Number 2, 56 divided by 8 minus 4. So we got division first. We can divide that. 56 divided by 8 is 7. And we have the minus 4, so we get 3. So those will be examples of a couple easier problems there. Now we get into some that are a little more difficult. We have ones with grouping symbols in there. So let's just kind of go through the steps and see what they did. So we have 5 and then parentheses 14 minus 3.8. So when, hopefully you remember this, but if you don't, when there's a number right next to parentheses, that means it's multiplication. Okay. Now you might be thinking they'll distribute your property this times this and this times this. You could do that, but we have all numbers. There's no variables or anything. So we just do the order of operations. We have this in parentheses. So we do that first. So 14 minus 3.8 is the 10.2. Okay. Now you just take 5 times 10.2 is 51. Okay. Letter B. They don't really need to rewrite this, but they have a top and a bottom of a fraction bar. Basically, that's like having the top in parentheses divided by the bottom in parentheses. Okay, so they write it like that. Okay, and I'll show you another way. The way I would do this would be slightly different, but they rewrite it. They put the top in parentheses, then divided by the bottom in parentheses. And they go 27 minus 3 is 24. So that's the top part. The bottom, 4 plus 2 is 6. Now they can divide 24 divided by 6 is 4. All I would do with this one, my one step of work, if I had to show work. Now, again, you can use calculators, but I want to see one step of work if you're going to want credit for the extra credit. I would just go 27 minus 3. That's the top. I'd leave it as a fraction. The bottom, 4 plus 2 is 6. Okay. And now you divide, and that gets you your 4. Okay, because fraction is just a division problem. Next one, we have 2 grouping symbols. So we have 4 times a bracket, 35 minus parentheses 11 plus 8, and then parentheses bracket. So with the 2 different grouping symbols, you do the insidemost one first. So the first thing we're going to do is the parentheses way inside. And we copy the rest down. So we have 4 times, we do the bracket, 35. The 11 plus 8 is the 19. Okay. Now we still have this bracket symbol. That's a grouping symbol, counts as like parentheses. So we're going to subtract that. And so 35 minus 19 is 16. Okay, and now remember dot means multiplication. So now we just go 4 times 16 is 64. Okay. All right, down below, last type that's in the note-taking guide. There's two things we're going to see differently here. First is just substitution with variables. Okay, so they say evaluate the expression when x is 3 and y is 6. So we're going to put 3 in for x, so that's where this comes from. 6 in for y, that's where that 6 comes from. Now the 3 and the 6, the 3 plus 6 is inside the parentheses, so we're going to add those. And we get 9. Again, the 3 is next to the parentheses, so that means multiplication. 3 times 9 is 27. Okay. Last one on the note-taking guide here for examples. Again, make sure this time it's y minus x, so make sure you put the correct numbers in. Okay, just because it was 3 and 6 up here, now it's going to be 6 and 3. So we end up getting 5 times parentheses 6 minus 3, and that parentheses being squared. Okay, so the first thing is parentheses. So the 6 minus 3 is the very first thing. Okay, so that goes inside the parentheses. So we have 5 times 3 squared. So this is the part where people will make a mistake. Even if you're using a calculator on your phone, this could be a mistake. So let me show, and I will show you where you can do this stuff on your calculator. Oh, I think I did that in the last video, so I think we're fine. We have, the key here is not go 5 times 3 and then square it. You have to go 3 squared first. You have to do the powers first, then multiplication. So 3 squared means 3 times 3, which is 9. And then 9 times 5 gives us the 45. Okay. All right, so let's do these two, see if I can do this writing small enough on here. Y is 5. And in parentheses, we have the 19 minus 4 squared. Okay, so then, now this time the square is inside the parentheses. So we do that before the parentheses. So we have to go 4 squared, because we look at parentheses, means do parentheses, but then inside we have to do the order operation. So we have to do that 4 squared first. And 4 squared is 4 times 4. Okay, now there's nothing else to do in the parentheses except subtraction. So 19 minus 16 is 3. And that's where we get the 5 times 3 is 15. Okay. Problem. We have 6y, so it means 6 times 5 on the top. And then x is 4, so we got 4 plus 1 on the bottom. Okay. Then top, 6 times 5 is 30. Bottom, 4 plus 1 is 5. So 30 divided by 5 gives us the 6. Okay. So there's the main idea of order operations in the note-taking guide. I am going to go over at least one problem. If you need to pause and get your study guide, do that. Study guide shows some more examples. So if you want to see more examples, you can look very similar to what we just did. Some practice problems. Again, if you can do the problems in the study guide here, you're probably good. But you can do the practice workbook for some extra credit. But if you can do the problems in the study guide, you're probably good for the test. The one thing I did want to show you is just a word problem and show you how they set it up, and you might do it differently, and that's okay, and I'll talk about that. So it says to start a scrapbook hobby, you bought a scrapbook for $19.99, 2 scissors for $5.50 each, and 3 cropping tools for $8.25. Find the total cost. So you might not set it up the way they do, but the way you would find the answer actually is the same. You might just think of doing it in different steps. But what they do is they just write, this is what they call the verbal model. The total cost is going to be the cost of the scrapbook. And even simpler than this, you'd say cost of the scrapbook plus the cost of the scissors plus the cost of the cropping tools. Well, to get the cost of the scissors, you have to take the number of scissors you bought times the cost. The cost of the cropping tools, you have to do the number of them you bought times one of them. Okay, so when you start putting numbers in, this is what it looks like. $19.99 for the scrapbook. You bought 2 scissors at $5.50 each, so they just use 5.5 instead of 5.50. Either way is fine. And then you have to add on the cost of the cropping tools, which you bought 3 of them at $8.25 each. So the order operations, $19.99 stays the same. 2 times $5.50 is $11. 3 times $8.25 is $24.75. Now you add them all up, and there's your answer. Okay, so that's just an example of a word problem here. Again, you can do number 7 on your own. Answers in the back. If you have any questions, let me know. Practice workbook. Again, you don't need to do everything in here. If you do, I'll give you that much credit. If not, I'll give you a little bit, half credit. Even if you just did these 3 problems, you're probably doing pretty well. I can start number 21 for you and just kind of show you how they would do this, and then maybe you can finish it. So I'll get it started for you. It says a formula to find the area of a rectangle is length times width. A lot of us know that. Where L is the length and W is the width. The figure below can be divided into 2 rectangles. Find the total area of the figure. So there's a couple different ways you could do this. Okay, you could draw a line here or here. Either way is fine. But basically what you want to do is make 2 rectangles out of it. So if you go here, okay, this top rectangle, you notice, has these dimensions. So the top rectangle would be a 3 times 2. That would be the area of that one. And then the other rectangle, just got to, there's a lot of numbers up here, so you just got to make sure you figure it out here. This would be the length. This would be the width. Okay, so we have 10 times 2. Now you'd use your order operations and find the total area. So I won't finish that one. But you might think, what are these other numbers? Well, this 4 is because this is a 2 and this is a 2. This 7 and 3 give you this 10. Okay. Now you could have set it up where you draw it here, and then your two rectangles would be different. You'd have a 3 by 4, and then you'd have a 7 by 2. When you do the math, they would end up equaling the same thing. Okay. All right, so I think that's it for 1.3. If you have any questions, let me know. If you're doing an extra credit, send it to me in a chat. And I think that should be it.